Hello again, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. We are really honored to be hosting Mariatta Wijaya, who will be animating a workshop about building GitHub apps using Python. First, my name is Amal, I'm a data scientist at Diana Analytics. I'm a co-founder of PyLadies Tunis with Uplaght and Hédia Tnani. Let me now give you an idea about PyLadies Tunis. We are an international mentorship group with a focus on helping others to become active participants and leaders in the Python open source community. Our mission is to promote, educate, and advance a diverse Python community through outreach, education, conferences, events, and social gatherings. So please don't hesitate to put your comments, questions in the chat section. Mariatta will answer you. Now, let me introduce our speaker, Mariatta. She is a Python core developer. She is a staff software engineer at Uplight and Vancouver PyLadies co-organizer. She is also an open source contributor. She moved to Canada almost 2 decades ago and now lives in Vancouver with her husband and 2 children. In her free time, she contributes to open source, builds GitHub Bots too. And now I will give the floor to Mariatta. Thank you, Mariatta, again to be here today.
No problem. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, PyLadies Tunis, for having me. I'm so excited because this is my first time really meeting the community in the Tunis area. Tunisia? How do I pronounce the country? Tunis? Okay. Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah. Okay. Maybe I'll get started and I'll be demoing like my tutorial on how to build GitHub apps, GitHub bots. If you have any questions, feel free to just chat or ask. It looks like a small group, so I think we can just ask questions anytime. We'll be fine. Okay, I will start by showing maybe what is a GitHub bots, what's the idea about it, and why you need it. I'll start by sharing my screen. Number 2. Okay, so this is the tutorial material that we will go through today, and the URL is I will post in the chat right now again. And this is available freely. You can just read it and follow along in your free time whenever you're ready. What else? Okay, I wanted to show about GitHub bots, like exactly for those not familiar with the whole concept, what is this about? This is an example pull request in the CPython repository, like this. This is the Python programming language. When we, in our workflow, Python is maintained by volunteers, people who are actually getting paid, people who do this in their free time. We have lots of contributors wanting to contribute to Python, but we don't have enough person power to handle everything on our own. So we built bots as a way to help us assist in our workflow. For example, here in this one pull request, there are a few participants, only 2 people. This is Jason and Irit, who are real Python code developers. The other 3 activities here, the nice Husseini as a bot, Budavir is another bot, and Miss Islington is also a bot. So like in one pull request, we have 3 different bots working to help us. And what they do is that the bot can automatically apply labels based on the stage of the pull request. And then it also can automatically merge the whole pull request. So this pull request is actually merged automatically when we apply the auto merge label. And then it wasn't the core developer who did the merge, it's a bot that merged it. It posts commands, automatically respond to things, remove the label accordingly, and created a backport. So this is like an example of how the bot has helped make our contribution easier. So for now, so for today, I will just show how you can build this kind of thing, and maybe after that you will be able to think about how you want to automate your workflow. And you can do this on GitHub. There you can do similar thing on GitLab. You will need a different library, and you don't even need to be open source maintainer or anything. You can do it on your own personal repo. You can build bots for your own personal use. So I will just show you how to get started with that. Okay, so one of the first thing I like to show is, well, in this tutorial, it will walk you through about like what do you need to get set up, the why. Perhaps I'll start by introducing the Gidgethub library, which is this is like the library, the Python library, async. It uses async IO and things. It is written specifically for working with GitHub APIs. So it's like, you can call it, if you're familiar with the concept, this is basically like a client for the GitHub API in Python. And this is maintained by Brad Cannon, who created it first. Like, Brad Cannon is also one of the Python core developers in Vancouver. And I've been helping him, and I'm also a co-maintainer of this library. So if you use this library, if you use this project and you have some issues, feel free to like come to the repository and file a bug there, and we will discuss it. So I believe, yes, here you go. Like, there is a documentation for GitHub. You can go there. Thought I'll go there and show you. So if you have issues, just open an issue or start a discussion site, and we'll answer it. Okay, the kind of tools we will use today, I will be using for VN, which is a built-in. This comes with Python 3. So if you have Python 3, you can use VN to create virtual environments. You can, I like to use VN in my tutorial examples because it's built in. You don't need additional toolings. If you're familiar with things like Conda, then you want to use that, definitely feel free to use those. We will use GitHub library, as I've mentioned. We will be using AIO HTTP as the web server. This is when we want to use, this is for when we will build the GitHub app, because we need a web service. GitHub itself supports different async web frameworks, so it's not limited to AIO HTTP, but it needs to be a different async web framework. So it doesn't support things like Flask or Django yet. We'll see about that. But we will use AIO HTTP, and we will be working with GitHub API version 3, which is the REST GitHub APIs and not the GraphQL. That's version 4 of GitHub API. I have shared some of the relevant documentation here for GitHub API. We will be looking into it, but GitHub actually has very extensive APIs. Their documentation is great. I do recommend you to read through them and understand. But one of the goals with GitHub itself, as I mentioned, why we have this library is it takes care of many of the internals that you need to worry about with working with APIs. For example, it takes care of, if you see here, you need to pass in certain media types. For example, you need to pass in maybe authentication tokens. And when you have the webhook, when you're setting up webhooks with GitHub, the library has taken care of all of the plumbing for it. Like, it takes care of checking your secrets and everything. It makes things easier. And I will show you in a few minutes, like how simple it will be to start working with APIs, GitHub APIs using Gidgethub. And actually I will go next here. So the things that you need to install is Gidgethub. I think, yeah, anything greater than 410 will work. So this was written a couple years ago, so it was outdated. And then we need to get a GitHub personal access tokens. I've described the steps here. So I will go there and do it just to demonstrate. You can see I use a lot of tokens. So so you will go to the settings, personal access tokens, and generate a new token. So the thing is, okay, I will say that this is for PyLadies Tunis demos CLI. That stands for a command line interface. Let's just make it short because I'm doing this just for the demo. And we have to specify what kind of permissions we want this token for. I will just say, I will limit it to repo. And in this case, I really suggest that you limit, like don't check everything because that's kind of, it's a security concern. If somebody get a hold of your token, they will be able to use it to access your GitHub profile, and therefore it's better to limit it. And so if I don't need it for anything else, I only need it to access repo information, I'm going to check just the repo. So I did create token, and you can see there is a text here. This is basically the token, and you have to keep this super secret. Don't share it with anybody, keep it in a safe place. And because I have shown this to you, I will delete it and create a new one. So this is just to show you how to do it. So let me move to a different screen and create a new one. And as I mentioned, once you receive this token, if you move out of that screen, you will not see it again. If you forgot it, you lost it, you have to just create another one and maybe expire the old one, like delete it if you know you've forgotten it. However, once you get that token, keep it in a safe place. Let me quickly put it for now in my local text file. GitLab token. GitHub.
Mariatta,
Okay.
sorry, can we check that everyone got his token? So let's check that everyone has his token already. So please, can you put in the chat if you generated your token? Can you put yes or no so we can repeat it? Okay, so Iman said not yet. Iman, please, if you need help, we can redo it. So if you want to.
Okay, yes, just to repeat, the way you go to create token is go to your personal settings, like your profile settings, and there is a developer settings and personal access tokens, and click generate new token.
Let's wait a little bit here. Iman, if you have any issue, please let us know. Is it okay now? If you have any other issue, please let us know in the chat. Okay, Iman, good. So how about the other participant, please? It's really important that you get your token, your personal access token.
Yes, I think
Yes,
they,
yes.
yeah.
Okay, let's move on. Thank you very much, Mariatta.
All right. So the next, with this token, we can start working with Gidgethub. So I will go to my terminal here and navigate to my project, basically. Where is this? Okay, so Pycharm projects, PyLadies Tunis demo. So I'm going to create a virtual environment, and this whole thing was described in this step, like installing Gidgethub. So let me do that. Actually, let's create a virtual environment. So Python 3 and is the font big enough? I just want to make sure people can see my screen. Okay, then activate the virtual environment. And then activate. Oh, excuse me. And then install these packages. Oh, excuse me. Okay. One. Actually, I have Gidgethub and AIO HTTP. Sorry, I will reinstall it. Install Python 3-npip install Github AIO HTTP. These two for now. And now this is done. I want to set the token which we have obtained just now. And in the terminal, the way to do it I'm using Mac OS. I've shared the example on how to do it in Windows. So that's the command you'll use in Windows. However, for me, it will be this one here. So in my terminal, I would say export gh_auth equal and the really long string that we get the token just now. So it would be the gh something. I forgot how it looks like. Again, because it's a secret, I will do it I will not share this screen to you. Let me do it separately here, but you can do it on your own. So, and clear. So I have done the command. The next stage is so in this next stage, I will show how to automatically create an issue using Gidgethub or using code instead of going to the website to create an issue. We want to copy. I have some example codes here. Maybe I'll just walk you through what is happening. We want to install certain libraries. We want to set up the Github library so we can start using it. And this is how we would instantiate the Github instance, the GitHub API sessions. And you notice that here we're telling the code to retrieve the GitHub auth, the environment variable that we have just set earlier. So the environment variable we specified in the terminal, we will be using it in the code. This is just like running the script, but nothing is really happening yet. And here, this is the part that actually make this code, this line, the gh.post, this is where it will be creating an issue in this repo, in my personal strange relationship repo. Maybe I'll show you how the documentation, the GitHub documentation tells you about how to create an issue. Make it bigger. Okay, one more. Oops, what did I do? Maybe I used. So in the GitHub documentation, it says to create an issue, you would make a post request to this URL, to repo/owner repo/issues. And you need to pass in what did you need? You need to pass in the title, which is required, and other things. It did not have the word required. That means it's optional, but you can pass these additional fields. So,
last Mariatta, I have a question. What is issues? I didn't get the point why we should add the issues.
like this one. Oh yes, this is basically to open an issue on a GitHub repository. This is an example. Yeah. So on GitHub, I'll show you how it works. So by the way, this repo is just a test repository. This is what I use to test everything. I suggest please don't spam other people's repository with your experiment bots. So, but you can use my repo. I don't mind it. I'm happy if you use this because that means you're learning from my tutorial, and that makes me happy. So like you would create a new issue, say you want to say a bug report or something. So instead of doing it from the screen like this, we will write a code to do it. So that is this specific endpoint is doing. So let's go back to the documentation here. So to translate this into GitHub library, we will basically use the same URL. We would say things like GitHub, make a post, which is what the documentation says, and this is the URL, the post, the repository where we want to be creating the issues at. And like it says here, you can pass in things like title and body. We will be passing it in the data dictionary here in the parameters. So I have created, like, this is the working example to piece them together, because to make it easier for me instead of having to type them one by one. So I will create the file, say create issue.py, and copy paste all of this. And again, you can change this path to something else. You want to use my repo, that's fine. I will change this to PyLadies Tunis demo and say, hello, welcome to the workshop. And if I run this now, create issue.py, it says issue was created. That's the new URL. And now if I go to my repository and refresh, I will see there is the issue that I created through the script, and it knows that it was created by me because it was using my personal access token. So if you try this your own, it should show that you made a ticket in my repo. So that's that. Any questions about this so far?
I think it's clear.
Okay, I will close this to clean things up. Well, okay, what did I? So I don't have a lot of time, but I have other examples here to get you more familiar with the GitHub library and APIs. So once you have time, maybe after this tutorial, and you want to work on it more, you can try these different exercises. Okay, now the next portion is the more complicated part. So what we did so far is we're making API calls to GitHub. It's from our screen for our computer to GitHub. This is the other way around, where we want to have like bots or automation that responds to something or to an event that happened on GitHub. And we will be using something called, we will be utilizing Webhook Events on GitHub. So basically, GitHub can send you various types of events. There are actually lots of them. If you follow this link here, it will tell you lots of different events. Like there are events like when issue was created, when somebody commented on the issue, or when somebody add labels to the pull request or something. There are lots of different types of issues. For now, basically, I actually have another screen that I can share that shows like how it works. This is an example of how Webhook works. Okay, so like on the left, so GitHub can send you Webhook events to a web service that you host. Your code will be hosted on a certain web service. Once you receive the Webhook event, you will be making API calls, like applying label, creating issue, or closing an issue. Like the direction from your web service to GitHub API to GitHub is what you can do with Gidgethub, which is something we already done. We were automatically creating an issue through a code. So that's how it works. So in order for this whole thing to work, we need a web service. And that's where we have AI or HTTP comes in. Another piece of this is that the authentication, right? Just now I showed how you can retrieve your own personal access token, and then you can use it to make GitHub API calls so that GitHub knows this is code run by you. So how does it works with webhooks and GitHub apps? You will not be using personal access token because the idea of the app is it can be installed by anyone that you allowed it to. So it shouldn't have your personal token there. It should be owned by the person who installed the app on your GitHub repo. So they have a different way of obtaining token, like the whole authentication method is kind of different. And that's why it will feel a little bit complicated to set up. But once you do the initial setup, everything will be simple. It's just the first stage of setting up the web service itself, setting up the proper authentication method is the most complicated part. All right. So in that case, I will continue. I will now show you how to set up that web service that can receive GitHub Webhook events, and then we'll go from there. To make it easier, I have an example like this. This repository has all the setup pretty much almost done. Like it has the working web service running. It just doesn't do anything yet. So I will take a copy of this. Let me go back to my documentation. Okay. So okay, let's go to something new now. Git clone. Actually, I'm not going to clone because I have it. Let me do this. So for me, I will do this one. Now I have a copy of the code locally on my local machine. I will open it. This is the boilerplate, this window. So I will walk you through of what's going on here. There are a few files that I have already created. The runtime txt is what will be used by Heroku, which is what I will use to host the web service. You might not need this if you use something else. If you don't use Heroku, you might not need the runtime txt. This is a way to tell Heroku that I will be running a specific Python version. Requirements txt file is the list of requirements we will use for this web service. Again, this is also used by Heroku to automatically detect what kind of dependencies it needs to use. README is just some instructions. Profile, again, this is also for Heroku. It tells you how to start the web service. Like this command will start this will start this web service. Actually, I will show you how it works. So I will start it Python 3-m pm. I will show you in a moment. The main.py is the file we will be working with today. There's a lot of things to be imported here. You can just copy the whole thing basically from top to bottom. The different, when you see things like routes.get like this, there are a few lines here. This is basically a way to tell the web service, like we want to have, these are the different URLs we will have. We will have the slash, like the root URL. It will, if we open it, it will print us hello world. And I will change this for now, hello PyLadies Tunis. Just to show you, the webhook is what we will use later to receive webhook events from GitHub. This is just basically, it receives the request, takes the secret and everything, setting up the GitHub API, which we have seen this similar code before in the previous example when we do the command line. There's nothing really happening here, it's just error catching and everything. I have provided an example, another URL for handling installation event. We will fill this in later in the tutorial. This is where this is just a starting point, like this part in the main method here. It's just saying, let's start a web service, specify all the URLs, all the routes, and start it up.
We have a question here from Nermin Ali. He said we would be using Heroku for deployment.
Yes, for this example, I will use Heroku. Just I found it the simplest way, and you can totally, if you are familiar with other framework or other provider, you might have to adjust it yourself for that provider, but you can totally deploy it somewhere else. Heroku is easy for me. Like I get to set it up in like a matter of clicks, and that's for tutorials is easy. um, okay, back to my terminal. I have activated the virtual environment. Not yet. So if I install all the dependencies, requirements. So that's the requirements that I have shown earlier in here, right? Once this is done, if I do the command, which I've written in the proc file, like Python 3-m web service, this is the command we can use locally as well. So if I type in Python 3-m web service, right? Now it says, now I have a running web service in that URL. So if I go to the site, to that specific URL that is written, now it's hitting the code, the main code that I shown where I said, hello, PyLadies Tunis. So that is that this part of the main where we are returning a web response. So now we know we have a working web service. Okay, what's next in the tutorial? I've explained all of this. Yeah, let's deploy to Heroku. And if you, again, I think if you don't want to use this for yourself because you do have to create an account, maybe I'll just show it to you and you can decide later which service you want to use. Okay. So I will create a new, let's say, a new app in Heroku. My PyLadies Tunis demo. Create an app, and I will say, let's connect to my GitHub repository, and which is the GitHub app. Like the URL is here. This is my repo, and you might need to choose a different, your own boilerplate here. If I click connect, so now by connecting my GitHub with Heroku, it can automatically retrieve the code on my repository. And if I do say deploy it now, I will also enable automatic deploys. Automatic deploys. Okay. Oh, they don't have Python 3.7.6 anymore. So I need to adjust this. Hold on. Let's see, what do they have now? Heroku Python version. They have a Python. Let's use 3.9.6. So I will change here and say 3.9.6 and commit it. Use Python 3.9.6. Okay. So now that my code has been uploaded here, I can redeploy. I can simply click deploy again from Heroku, and it will take the latest change. So now we can see that it's trying to install Python 3.9.6, and it's going to install things that I mentioned in the. You will see that it's going to read the things in the requirements file.
Mariatta, we have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So Narmin is saying, as far as I understood, we need to check what a supported version of Python is supported by Heroku.
Oh, yes. If you don't specify anything, it will try to take the latest version. So if you remove the runtime txt file completely, Heroku will pick one for you. However, if you need to use certain version, like if you need to use Python 3.9 for some reason, right? You do need to choose to check whether it is supported by Heroku, and they have the documentation here. You can see what else are. If you click on that link, these are the different versions that Heroku is still supporting. So it looks like you cannot use Python 2 anymore in Heroku. So that's something to think about. But definitely check, yes, what is still supported, and make sure your code is compliant with the version that you chose. So yeah, thank you for asking. That's a great question. Okay, where were we? So I got it deployed, and if I view it, I now see the hello world here, and that's because I did not commit my code about hello PyLadies Tunis. I did not commit this, so it still have the original code base. But maybe in my next commit, we will get it working. Let's go back to the tutorial. We were in the building GitHub app. I created a web service, deployed to Heroku. Now we are going to create the GitHub app, and you can follow the link here. I will go there and say we are in the GitHub apps tab. I will say let's create a new GitHub app, and I will say my PyLadies Tunis demo. Mariatta's demo for PyLadies Tunis. And here it asks for certain URLs, and I will pass in basically the web service that we created in Heroku. I will use that here, and that's why I showed you how to create it in Heroku first. The next stage we need, I think we can. Let's see, what else do I need? Yeah, we just need to specify the webhook URL and the secret. So here, keep this empty. This is the important part because we want to activate the webhook. And I will put, instead of the root of the web service, I will say the webhook, which is what we have set in this code. We said we will receive webhooks in the /webhook URL, right? And the secret here, it says optional on GitHub, but GitHub library actually requires you to fill this in just because for security reasons. And the reason we do this is because we are receiving events from, like, when you create this kind of URL, you want to be sure that you are receiving things from GitHub. You don't want to respond things that other people try to, if other people try to make requests to your webhook, you want to ignore it. You only want to respond to things from GitHub. And the secret is a way to tell that this is indeed something that you have specified on GitHub. So the secret here can be anything at all. Use some random strings if you can. For now, I will just give an example like hello. Again, this is just an example, but put something there. Okay, the things that we want to do is, what did I set in the documentation? Go to the permissions and set permissions to issues and pull requests to read and write. Okay, permissions to issues, read and write, and pull request. Oh, I got the wrong one. Read and write. Again, as I said, just give the necessary ones. Don't give your app everything unless you really need it. So that's all. And I want to say the issues events, pull request. And for now, I will say just because I'm still testing, I will say only it can be installed only by me. Once you're ready to have this bot installed by other people, you can then choose the any account. But for testing, just let it, give it to yourself. Let's see what else. So I created the GitHub app. Okay, then the next stage is we want to set up config variables. So what we need is things like app ID, and we want to store it in Heroku. We want the Heroku service to know what is our GitHub app information. And you would go to settings and click the button where it says reveal config variables, and you would put those kind of information there. So like GitHub app ID will be that value. And there are other things that we need to set in here. We're not done. And I wrote the documentation here. We need the GitHub secret. GitHub secret, that's the webhook secret that I specify, the word hello. One more thing is the private key. And this is back in the GitHub app settings. Once you're done creating it, you want to scroll down and click the generate private keys. You will receive the file downloaded to you. You'll want to open it. So basically, let me copy this. Hold on. I will see if I can put it here. I want to show how it looks like. Hold on. Having trouble opening the file. So I'll show you how it looks like. This is the file I have just downloaded. It's something .pm. It's really, really long. You wanna, again, I will delete this after the tutorial. You wanna copy this whole thing and put it in your Heroku like this. So the value will be not secret. Open that thing again. Oops, accidentally closed it. All right, this whole text, you want to put it in the value box like that, and you will say gh private key is that big text that you receive. Again, this is keep this very secure. I know this is being recorded. I will delete this whole thing after the recording. So keep it in a secure place. Okay, now that we have that set up, we can start building the bot. So what I want to do here is I want to say thank you, like create an issue test that says thanks to the person who installed my bot. The way to do that is by subscribing to the installation created event. By subscribing to that, we will receive the events that, hey, somebody just installed the bot. Now I can make the API call to create an issue to say the thank you, to add the thank you message. And I have, basically I have created, this is where I have set up that code to receive the installation created event. So if you are interested in listening to other type of events, say you want to get the issue created event or something, you would just maybe create a different coroutine, like a different handler to do that. Installation created event, and maybe you will call it like, say, issue created, and add your logic here. But for now, we will work with the installation created event. Let's see. I will show you the documentation of it. I think I did show it earlier. I want to show you the specific documentation about installation. Here you go. This is the documentation about it. Like, if you're curious about why did I say created, because that's what GitHub has defined. You can choose the created, the deleted, the suspend, and suspend events. So if you are interested in other type of events, you will be choosing something like deleted here, which is what the documentation says. So just to show you how to read the documentation and translate it to the GitHub code. But I will work with the created. In the documentation here, it tells you the kind of payload, the kind of data that GitHub will send to your webhook. It will give you the installation ID. It will tell you who's installing it. So these are the information we can use in our logic when we receive the webhook. Let's go back here. So what do we want to do? So first we receive the installation ID. Then say we want to say, let's create an issue based on that. The code to create an issue, we have done it before in the previous example, right? That we would do something like do a post to a certain URL. In this case, the title will be probably, thanks for installing my bot. Anything you want, right? This is an example. And then now the challenge here is that I mentioned about authentication. How will it find out that this is done by a bot? And especially since we are not storing the personal access token anymore. And that's why we have we have set up all of these like these secrets here. We will be using these two environment variable, well, these three, the app ID, secret, and private key to determine to obtain a different kind of token. For this, we will be using the something called installation access token, and I have the code to do it here. You can just copy paste this thing. Again, it shows you it's retrieving the environment variable, the app ID, and the private key. And that's why we had them set up in Heroku. So I will copy this. So before we can make that post request, we will have the installation access token. And we just need to pass in the token. So we will just pass in things like, so in the post request here, we will add another parameter. Let me format this correctly. Okay, let me do it. So we pass in the token, which is what we just obtained in the previous line. Next, let's think about the URL. So before we were hard coding things like URL is, we literally hard coded to my personal repo. So now we want to find out where is this app was installed at. And if you look at the documentation of the webhook, it tells you that this is being installed. If you look through the whole repository, it has a list of repositories that's where it's being installed to, and you can retrieve the full name, like in the repositories, which is a list. And then if you retrieve the full name here, you will get the repo where it got installed. So we will use this information instead of hard coding. So to do that, to retrieve that information, we will do event, repo name is event.data, and it says repositories. It was a list of things. Since I know, well, this is testing, and just to make things faster, I'm going to retrieve the first item in the list and get the full name. In real life, you might want to do something else, like maybe you will iterate through all the repositories instead of just getting the first one. Then I can change this URL, but let me do it. So URL will be more like, what was it? Repos, and then repo name and issues, right? That's the URL for creating issues. So like repos, repo name, and issues. And it's described in my documentation, by the way. So with that, we have the URL, we have the response, and just for debugging, let's print out the response here. Now that I have made my code changes, I'm going to commit everything. Let's say implement the installation webhook event handler. Push. So if I push this to, by committing and pushing to the repo again, it will appear on my, the new commit will appear on my repo, and Heroku is able to detect that there is a new change there. So I can, let's see if it is deploying, I will check. And to do that, I can check the log of my Heroku through command line. So it says the command line is Heroku logs-a, the name of my Heroku app, which is PyLadies Tunis demo. Do it here. Let's see. So this is the logs from Heroku. Oh, I need to log in. Hold on. I will log in. Log in. Okay, go back. All right, I can see that it has redeployed. So let's see if anything's changed. So if I refresh this, it should say hello PyLadies Tunis. No, let me deploy just in case. It's building. Okay, let's see. Okay, now it says PyLadies Tunis. So I know my latest change has been deployed and it should now have the webhook/webhook URL. We will get the method not allowed because we accept only the post method. So we cannot do it through the browser. But now that we know the web service is up, the next step is actually install the app so we can start receiving the installation events from Webhook, from GitHub. How do I install it? Let's see. I click the install app. In the GitHub app settings before, I will, since I set only I can install it myself, I will set let's install it. And I only want it in the specific repository, which is in my test, the strange like this. So don't install it on everything in the first step. Just test it in one repo. I install it. When this is done, it should already send the installation created event, and I can see we can see the activities of the webhooks back in the GitHub apps screen again. So I will go back there. So this is my PyLadies Tunis. If I go, so this is the app setup. If I go to the advanced screen, I will see that this is basically, these are the list of webhooks that the app has received. Let's see what it says. Here we receive the issue open to webhook event. We also receive the installation with the action created. Like we receive the installation created event, and we can see that our app responds with the 200 message. It looks like it's working. So let's see if let's go to my repo, and I got the bot that posted 1 minute ago. At the time when I installed the bot, it says, thanks for installing. It has my avatar. It has the icon that says, this is a bot, and this is the code that I wrote that says, thanks for installing my bot. So that means now the bot is working, and it's working. Now that I know that it's working, I can adjust the logic. Like if I wanna do something else in addition to say thanks, maybe I can close the issue. I would add more logic here. So yeah, that's all the demo I have for now. Like basically just to show you how it works, how to set it up. Um, of course, you might not actually want this kind of bot. So you have to think about what kind of automation, what kind of workflow you want to build, and then you will know how to implement it. At least you have the basic idea. You need to have the web service. You want to respond to webhook events and make API calls. So
Thank you. Okay.
that's it. I know it's long. I know it's complicated, but
Okay.
as I said, once you get everything set up, the code is really simple. Like
Yes,
so.
thank you. Anyone have a question? You can put it in the chat section. I think it's clear.
Or actually, if someone has a question, we can unmute him or her so she can ask the question. So please let us know if you have any question about GitHub, bots, and whatever.
Yeah, I thought I mentioned like if at any time you were going through this tutorial, like you read the documentation and you have problems or something, or maybe I didn't explain it correctly or wasn't clear enough, feel free to just message me or create an issue on the tutorial repository, and then I'll be happy to just answer it.
Okay, then I think it's
For
clear.
those who joined us late, or if you got lost a little bit, so we will send you the recording of this session. So please don't be afraid. So you can repeat this workshop. So there is no problem. So being lost is not an issue. Thank you.
Okay, then thank you everyone to be here today and to attend our workshop. Special thanks for you, Mariatta, for such a great session. So please stay updated for our upcoming meetups by joining our meetup group. So thank you again. Okay.
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining. I appreciate it, and thanks for organizing this.
Thank you, Mariatta. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.